Okay, 5:30 having arrived, I'm going to call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I am going to note a couple of things for the record. One, I am not able to turn the camera on, so this meeting is being recorded with regard to audio, but not video this evening. I would also note that Richard Pittman is not with us this evening. He's attending one of his grandchildren's events up north, so he's an excused absence. With that said, our first order of business this evening is to hear from Evan Roberge of Avatar regarding the revaluation startup. And I know we've got folks from DRA here too. So.
All right.
Thank you, Evan.
Yeah, so pretty much the point of this meeting is just to give you a quick overview of the revaluation process, which every community goes through at least once every 5 years, which is required by law. The purpose is to bring all revaluations, the purpose of the revaluation, is to bring all assessments to market value as of April 1st, 2020. I will be the supervisor in charge. The town has opted not to require a bond, and we did provide the DRA with the contract and the insurance certificate. So the real estate market is consistently changing. The state does track the market changes from year to year through the equalization process. For instance, if you look at your 2019 equalization ratio, it was 80.9%. So what that's saying is that assessments are 80.9% of what they were selling for. So sales are up here, assessments are here. So essentially this process, the goal is to bring assessments up to the sales. Having said that, not all classes of properties change at the same rate. For example, vacant land, single-family dwellings, older homes, waterfront properties, mobile homes, commercial, may not appreciate or depreciate at the same rate as other types of properties. Sales are the basis for the new values, so it is important that we verify the physical data for those sales and verify the transaction to know that each one used in our analysis is qualified sale, meaning willing seller, willing buyer, and it represents market value. Not using foreclosures, short sales, bank sales, stuff like that, family sales. We plan on going back 1 year for the sales. If we need to go back for more, we will. For certain properties, I don't know how many, I think we have plenty of sales in Pleasant Lane, so I don't think we have to go more than a year, but if we do, we will. Taxpayers should also be aware that if the assessment increases, for example, 20%, that does not mean the taxes are going up 20%. For example, if all the budgets stay the exact same, and the town average went up, the total town value went up 20%, that tax rate would go down proportionally if the budget stayed the same. Obviously, I don't know if that's happening, I don't know where that's going. But if it's going up, right? So in that case, if the budgets were going up and we didn't do this update, the taxes would have still gone up, would have gone up anyway, whether we did the update or not.
Yeah, I suspect the budget is likely to be very close to where it was for the last year or two. So
nothing too crazy.
It should be in.
Oh, the police station, right, or something like that?
No, not yet.
All right. Let's see. Yeah, and statistically speaking, we have found, we don't know why, but usually after an update we see that a third goes up, a third goes down, and then a third stays the same. It really depends on the sales in the neighborhood, and really the sales in general. And once we analyze the sales and develop the preliminary values, there will be a field review of the entire town. Just be aware that during this time we're just going to parcel in a car. We're going up driveways, but we're not getting out. We're not knocking on we're not measuring anything. We've already done the data verification process. So we've seen that sometimes they'll call and say that they just drove by our house, didn't get out or anything. Just know that we did do the cycle inspections process for the prior period. There's an attempt to measure and list every property during that time. Once that process is completed, we will send out preliminary notices. That notice gives the property owners a chance to call and set up an appointment, if needed, to sit down with the assessor. They can see the sales, they can ask any questions they want. Like I said, we'll have the stack of the sales there, so we can, in Deerfield there's a lot of the same homes, so we should be able to show similar homes. Because if you're not, you have a similar home, your neighbor sells for $300,000, you're very similar, you should be at $300,000 if it sold recently, and it's a qualified sale. Once that process is complete, we're going to start that field year process in June, and the preliminary notices and hearings will be in July. Once the hearings are over, we will provide the town with a use map report that explains what we did, sales we used, and so on. The contract has a completion date of October 1st, 2020. So the town will need to, I'll talk to Chris about it, but the town will need to file an extension on there with the MS1. You should know that we are doing the utilities, and they will be done in accordance with House Bill 700. What else is new for 2020? We will be assessing solar this year. So I don't know if you guys have the exemption or not. Do you guys know if that got voted in? I don't think it did.
I recall discussing it. I don't recall what action we took, but
Okay.
we should be able to find out fairly quickly for you.
Okay, yeah, because if it did get voted in, then they just want to, I'll talk to Chris about it, and then we'll send out notices to them, because they have to file for the exemption to get it. So essentially how that works, if you guys did adopt the exemption, on the card it'll show the market value for the solar, so just say it's $20,000, and if they applied for the exemption, you wouldn't see it on the card, but you'd see it on the tax bill. So it'll show their tax bill minus, I think we have it as PWR power, and it'd be minus whatever the assessment is on the solar. Do you guys have any questions? I think that's it for me, and if there's no questions, we got Adam from the DRA here to explain some of his monitoring work.
I certainly don't have any questions. I don't know if the other board members do.
I did get PR stuff to John. I think I saw it on Facebook, so I think that went out.
I believe it's up, yes.
Yeah, the most we can get that out, the better. It helps. That helps. The hearings help obviously a lot. And they can, I mean, a lot of them come in, they ask questions. Even if they think the numbers look good, they come in and just ask questions on, which sales we use and stuff like that. Right. But anything we can get out there to help them understand, because, I mean, as you know, the EQ is 80.9, so people are going to be going up quite a bit. So some more than others probably. I think the waterfront might go up more than everyone else, but we'll see once we start digging into all the sales.
Yep.
What do you shoot for equalization for percentage?
Yep, 100%, yeah. Yep.
Nope, I don't think we have any questions,
right.
Evan. We've been through it all before, and
It gets easier and easier every year.
So my name is Adam Zanankor. I'm the East District Supervisor for the DRA. Mm-hmm. Basically, why we want to come to a meeting like this is kind of to explain our role in the revaluation and also talk a little bit about assessment review that's coming up for Deerfield this year. Evan actually answered a lot of the questions that I had. We've reviewed the contract. There's just a couple of items that we want to go over. He already spoke a little bit about PR. That's one of our main things, is that there's plenty of notification for taxpayers so they kind of understand what's about to happen and maybe give them a little more information so they don't feel quite as blindsided when the result hits. Although there's a lot of that you can't mitigate, especially in this kind of market. What we are going to do primarily is review the properties that Evan visited or that Avatar will visit for sales. That's kind of like the basis of where they're getting their value from. So if there's inaccuracies in the property record cards that are sale properties, that's going to skew results. So we'll go out, we'll probably take a sample of 25, maybe look at 12 of them and ensure that they're accurate. We'll send a letter to Avatar, just basically explaining what we found. If they have any sort of comments or questions about what we found, we'll have a conversation with them, and then we'll send the final results to you so that you can understand what we found. Beyond that, one of the main things for us also is visit history, and that'll come into play with the monitoring. Avatar does an excellent job of putting right on there what date they were there, who was there, why they were there, and what they did when they were on the property. That's all excellent stuff. For us, if there isn't a visit history on the property, then nothing, there really would be no reason to adjust an assessment unless you have a markered visit.
Right.
Let's see. I think actually I haven't answered like most of my questions. Let's see. Just a start date, if that's going to be tonight.
Start date. I'm gonna probably no, definitely not tonight. Like when you start reviewing sales.
Oh, just the update in general. I mean, you talked about you looked into time training a little bit already, so.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Say
Yeah.
today then. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not. Okay.
Yeah. Time training counts definitely.
So yeah, so the second part is assessment review, which is a 5-year cycle that the DRA has with every town, where we take a look at a number of areas. I like to break it down kind of into 4 different categories. The first one being field work, where very similar to the monitoring of sales that we do for the update, we take a look at accuracy of data in general. We'll take a sample of all 2,500 or so parcels, or however many are improved, and we'll get maybe down to a sample of 35, visit them and look at every single data point on the card. From basically acreage, making sure it's correct on the tax map and the property record card, down to roof cover, siding, the whole thing. And the standard for that is actually a 7.5% of the improvement value. So it has to be quite a glaring error. If it's just the roof type that's incorrect, that's probably not going to rise to that amount. We're looking for significant differences in square footage or something like that. That would be an error. These standards come from the ASB themselves, so we kind of just execute their will. And in this case, you could have multiple properties that had small missing sheds or missing decks or something like that that wouldn't rise to the level of an error as they explain it. The other thing that we look at is inventory, which would be basically following Avatar after they've done their pickups in the spring to make sure that properties are being valued correctly as of April 1st. And they're obviously not able to be on every property on April 1st, so they're going to make a judgment call on a lot of under construction projects where they were on April 1st, and we just want to ensure that they're doing the right estimation, and that we also agree with their conclusion. So we'll probably take a look at, again, 20 to 30 properties that had permits, and that goes from new homes to decks to sheds to remodels, everything, to make sure they're visiting properties and that they're doing it correctly. The second part is kind of an in-office file review. So we want to take a look at credit files, exemption files, files like current use files, and also institutional exemptions like your religious, charitable, educational properties, and just ensure that there's proper paperwork for each one. When it comes to credits and exemptions, the standard is 95%, that 95% of our sample have the proper paperwork in there, assigned an approved application, and that they're being reviewed periodically, and that would be once every 5 or so years, basically once every assessment review cycle. For the A9s and the A12s, the institutional exemptions, we just want to make sure that you have a current one on file. And a lot of those organizations can be spotty about getting them to you. We want to make sure that if you're giving out that kind of full exemption, that you do have the paperwork to back it up. Current use, there's a number of things that we look for, and current use can be the most difficult one. But we're looking for an application, we're looking for a map that goes along with it, we're checking to make sure if they ask for recreational discount that they're receiving it. We're looking to make sure that the equalization ratio is applied, because current use values are market value, but this particular year, 100% will probably suffice, because you are doing an update this year. And then the last 2 parts of that are that they're rated, the current use land is rated, that they're not all assessed at the same level. And if they're in a managed category, they have a certified tree farm, that they have a CU12 or other documentation that would allow them to get that. The next part is statistical, which is all done by our equalization bureau. We're looking at the median ratio. Like Evan mentioned, it's at about 80 right now. We want to see it between 90 and 110. Our equalization season is going to be a little bit different from what Avatar is going to look at for sales this summer. So it may be that if the market is hot, by the time we get the statistics, the ratio could be even a little bit lower than 100. If it was at 100 when Avatar kind of finalized those values. But as long as it's between 90 and 110, That's what we're looking for. We also look at the coefficient of dispersion, which is a measure of assessment uniformity. We want to see that that number is no greater than 20. And the final statistical measure is price-related differential, which is a measure of proportionality between high and low-end properties. And we want to see it between 0.98 and 1.03. That's just indicating the higher the number, the higher mobile homes are assessed versus high-end properties like a waterfront or something like that. It's a measure of proportionality. The final part is use PAP report in the contract. We're here tonight because we have received a copy of the contract and we have a list of personnel. So that's one part already checked off. And the other part is the use PAP report, that it's supplied to us 30 days after the MS1 and that it is deemed compliant by our department. Avatar is excellent about getting them on time and they're particularly robust, and I don't think we've ever had a problem with one of their manuals. So I don't expect that'll be an issue. And like I mentioned to Evan earlier tonight, the last time this was done in Deerfield was 2015, and you did meet every single standard. So I would expect nothing less, right?
We hope.
So that's about it for me. If you have any questions.
Board members have any questions for Adam? I don't think we do. I said it's a fairly straightforward process. We've been through it before. I know the community's radar is up a little bit with regard to it coming because the contract was presented in the initial budget work and discussed at budget committee meetings and at the budget hearing. So I've gotten some emails asking when it's going to start, and I expect there'll be some more.
Yeah, and transparency is the best possible thing, and that's why PR, getting out there, posting it wherever you can is perfect.
Right.
Yep.
So, thank you very much for your
Great.
time.
Thank you for your time, and thank you, Evan.
I have, I don't know if this will help you guys, but I have pretty much what I said laid out. I'm not the best public speaker, so I read everything out.
Yep.
Do you know if that'll help the people that aren't here?
Yeah.
It might be in the PR stuff I gave John, but I can clean it up and then
If you
send
don't,
it up- send
if
it
you
to you
don't
guys.
mind sending it, that would be helpful, yeah.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you guys.
Thanks, Evan. Okay, moving along, I'm going to move to the Highway Department quarterly report. I would note that we're only about 4 weeks into the quarter, and I suspect that most of the board's concerns that we would be expecting to talk about now, we don't necessarily need to due to the lack of snow and ice, but
Exactly. Well, that's kind of like part of my update. Everything's been going good. It has been kind of nice having a break from the weather the last couple of weeks and catching up on some rest. The season has come with its challenges between, you know, breakdowns, normal breakdowns, wear and tear, you know, contractors breaking down, just the normal stuff, but we seem to get through it just fine, and that's about, you know, we're fully stocked with salt and sand and ready for whatever might come our way this week, and that's about it as far as, like I said, not much to update on. Winter's pretty much the same year after year, and but I just did want to add one other thing there is, I'm sure the board knows that I didn't sign back up for road agent, and we'll be done in March, and I just wanted to personally thank the board for the last 6 years. You guys have been awesome to work with, and I'm going to miss you guys, no doubt about it.
well, we're going to miss you, Mark, and thanks is extended from the board for your work and your time put in, and feel free to come join us. So.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to also add that whoever gets elected, I mean, I'll be there for them no matter what they need, you know what I mean? They can call on me anytime, I'll help them through, you know, from the bidding processes to, you know, what's next or any of that. I mean, I'll be there 100% if they want my help.
Yep.
I'm there for them, so, you know, just let them, don't hesitate to call and ask, and, you know, I help all I can.
We very definitely appreciate the offer, and
All right, that's
Thank
about
you.
it.
I want to thank you too for the cemetery work,
What's that?
all the years you put in for the cemetery.
yeah.
Thank you for that.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep, thank you, Jeff.
thanks for skipping
Yeah.
dinner tonight to come talk to us.
Thank you.
Okay, I am going to move to outstanding minutes, and we have outstanding minutes from January 22nd presented this evening.
Make a motion to approve January 22nd meeting minutes.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there discussion, corrections? Hearing none, those in favor of accepting?
Aye.
And I will vote as well to make a quorum. So they are approved. Vouchers, we have an accounts payable manifest in the amount of $1,075,387.41.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, and obviously a large chunk of this is going to the school district. But if there were no questions, and hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving to signatures, we have a number of property-related signature requests this evening. I'll start with the easy one. We have a refund request from Kelly Roberts, the town clerk tax collector. And this is looking to refund $126 to Ms. Linda Pollock of 9 Prospect Road. New law went into effect January 1st, 2020, changing the registration months for leased vehicles from the lease company's month to the lessee's birth month. And this has generated a $126 credit, as this was corrected for Ms. Pollock. So those in favor, or I need a motion actually.
To give the credit.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to grant the $126 credit. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, most of these, the next 3 anyway, are property that's coming out of current use, and there's an LUCT penalty due. So the first is map 414, lot 105, subdivision 1. This is Brent D. Batchelder. Parcel sold for $89,000. There is now an $8,900 land use change tax amount due. I could use a motion to collect our land use change tax.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Are there questions with regard to this? The details are spelled out. There's nothing particularly controversial about either of these 3. Those in favor?
Aye.
Vote as well. The second is also a land use change tax penalty. There are 3 lots, map 419, lot 80, subdivision 3, map 419, lot 80, subdivision 4, and map 419, lot 80, subdivision 5. This is J.K. Mulliken and Son Homes, LLC. 2 properties were sold. There's an $8,100 land use change tax due.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Thank you. All right, if there's no further discussion regarding the J.K. Mulliken land use change tax, all those in favor?
Aye.
For some reason, there are a lot more signature lines on this one, I guess, because of the number of parcels. Not sure if I should have Mr. Ellis investigate that noise or. Yeah, and there are 6, I think, signature lines on that one. Okay, the next matter before us is also a land use change tax recommendation from Avatar. This is for tax map 414, lot 105 and lot 105 sub 2. This is at 68 Oak, actually it's not at 68. The name of the property owner is 68 Oakdale Avenue Realty Trust. And this is a result of a lot line adjustment. The acreage is not available to meet the 10-acre requirement on the parcel. The land use change tax generated is $8,900.
So moved.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to collect the land use change tax. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There are 4 signatures on this. Okay, we have two applications for veterans tax credits. These are both for the $500 standard tax credit. The first is Robert Walter Denise of 59 Stage Road. Paperwork appears to be in order. Entertain a motion to grant the $500 veterans tax credit to Mr. Denise.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the second is for Lynette Shinsato of 7 Fieldstone Drive in Deerfield. And again, this is for the standard veterans tax credit of $500. Paperwork appears to be in order.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second in favor of granting. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the last item in the signature folder does not require a vote or a motion. This is a notice of intent to cut wood or timber, and it's been submitted by Charles and Sherry Sanborn, 135 Middle Road. Strangely enough, they're using Gary Sanborn as their forester and logger. Okay, we don't have a lot in the correspondence file. We did get a check for $37.83 from Standard Power of America. This is the town's portion of hydroelectric reimbursement funds. I will note for the record that a majority of the board signed an accounts payable manifest in the amount of $69,920.70 on the 26th of January 2020. And a majority of the board also signed a payroll manifest of $51,669.66 on the 23rd of January 2020. We have no town administrator with us this evening. If anyone's got anything they wish to forward to the town administrator, would like to bring to the attention of the meeting at this point. Unfinished business. New business. I would just note that next Tuesday, we'll need a quorum of us to be at the polls at 7 o'clock. And again at 7 p.m. for signatures on the stickers. We don't need a non-public session that I'm aware of, so the board members do. So at this point, I would look for citizens' comments and recognize Mrs. Katie.
I'm sitting here thinking of 3 new people coming in as road agents and wondering why we don't offer a consulting fee to Mark to work with them for a short time, something, so they're not just thrown in and have to learn.
I think that's valuable advice, and it's something that we have done in the past, not necessarily with former road agents, but I know that we did pay Selectman Joe Stone a stipend to work with incoming road agents that were...
And we have in the assessing, and we have in... I really think it's important with the kind of work Mark knew to repair. We may not get a person that knows that.
Yep. Nope. Appreciate the input. Mr. Rhodes?
Not far from the same subject. It's obviously too late in this cycle, but what is the history of the select board considering the road agent as an appointed position rather than as an elected position?
We have attempted on at least 2 occasions to get that put in place. It actually has to be placed on the warrant and voted on at the town elections. It's failed miserably in previous attempts. The board did discuss this year whether to float it and decided not to.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mrs. Katie again?
Sorry. Talked with Joanne Lawson, and I don't even know why. She mentioned that she got the veterans exemption from when Harry was in World War II. And I said, I believe that's going to be raised from what I heard at the budget committee meeting. Is there going to be a letter or something sent to these people explaining?
That I'm not aware of, but we could certainly look into it. I know that the adjustment is going to be automatic. They're not going to have to reapply to get the new rate.
But it's a warrant article.
So we have to wait and see if
So
it
we have to wait
passes.
if it passes.
Oh, and it has to pass?
Yes, the board incorrectly
It's for the town
assumed
to
that we could.
raise it, even though the state gave you the permission.
Right.
I understand. Okay, a second thing, I got a letter in the mail which prompted me to ask a question, that they're asking me to refill out all of the elderly exemption information again. And I thought, how many people know about the elderly exemption? And found out there are only 18 people in this town receiving it. And I think that should be something up on the website so people understand there is a way for them to get some relief.
Well noted. Thank you. Mr. Rhodes?
No, I just, you remembered something and I remembered something. Means the brain is still working, I think. Mention was made earlier this evening of the solar credit, I guess, or the exemption of solar panels from the revaluation. What's the deal with that?
I can't recollect. I remember discussing it as a board a few years back, and I don't recollect what action we took, so I don't know exactly what the deal in town is with that.
The state has offered, has put it on the towns, I gather, to offer, they've mandated, I guess, the state has done something, allowed towns to exempt?
It's an option that towns can select, yes. And I don't recollect whether we've actually done it. I also don't recollect whether it could be an action of this board or whether it would have to be a warrant article.
I think it was a warrant article that got turned down, Andy, several years ago.
I have some vague recollection, but I
That's what
don't
I
have
thought.
enough specific to make a pronouncement at this meeting.
Do we know other updated, I mean, a couple of years ago, not a lot of people necessarily had solar. That's probably changed a little bit.
It's changed drastically in the last 3 years because we were part of the Solar Up New Hampshire project that brought some awareness. But it's definitely on my list of things to determine.
I thought it might be. Thank you.
I have to respond to the DRA and our assessor as well, so.
Indeed.
Okay, one last thing that I didn't take up, and one of the reasons I did not take it up was I wanted to get the opinion of the full board probably, but we have 2 pictures that have been submitted by artist Mike Driscoll for use on the town report cover. One of them is the colonial and maple trees just below the cemetery on Meeting House Hill Road. And the other is a James City Road residence. I don't know if... Yes, you're right. I actually have that painting hanging on my wall. I don't know if the board wants to make a decision at this point as to which one, or if we want to wait and get Dick and Fred's input.
When do we have to?
They would like it as soon as they can get it, but we've got a little time.
They have time for the next meeting.
Probably not. Does the 3 of us have an opinion here? I like red. I think the red door stands out, but
Me too. So we need them anyway.
All right,
Majority rule.
so
First choice, so.
our first choice then will be the house on Meeting House Hill Road, the colonial with the red door with the 2 maple trees in front of it. And I will convey that to Randy so she can
Good choice.
prepare the cover.
I think that's on the website too.
We have a photo of it, I know.
Too bad you couldn't get the view.
Joe Stone wanted to make that a park across the street when I first moved to town. If there's no further business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn,
Second.
6:14.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Very good, thank you.